Welcome to Music and Medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Moshe Lewis. Super excited today to be coming to you live from Santa Clarita, California, where we are here with the one and only Maxayn. This is a woman whose reputation precedes itself. All of us who know soul music, R&B music, have heard her voice. Some of you don't realize you've heard her voice, but she has been background vocalist and even had her own group for several years, signed to Warner Records, and then also even as recently as working with artists like Brittney Spears, but we can go back in the day, Smokey Robinson. She was one of the original singers background for Ike Turner, who had an amazing influence on her life. More recently, Mama Rainey in Mama Rainey's Black Bottom. She was the voice there in the movie that Viola Davis starred in. So what a delight to meet you.
Lovely to meet you as well.
A pleasure. And we were getting talking, so we told them they had to turn the cameras on because it's so often now that our community hears about Tulsa, Oklahoma. That's where you came from. So talk to us about growing up there and what it was like at that time when you were just still a young girl.
Oh, well, Oklahoma was one of the last states to integrate.
Mm-hmm.
So it was segregated when I was growing up there. I went to all black schools, all black student body, all black teachers.
And the year?
I don't really want to say
Sure,
because it'll
okay,
update me.
approximately.
But this is before, and this was like in the 60s.
Right.
Like
Mhm.
in the 60s.
Right, sure.
But it was actually when you say that, my mom never ever thought they should integrate
Mm.
because she said it's going to destroy the black community, and because it was such a rich environment,
Mm.
it was incredible. And I think a lot of people in many places in America don't have any idea they have neighborhoods,
Right.
but it's different now because you can have, it's very hard that some black neighborhoods have been just completely destroyed or moved around or compromised in some kind of way. But it was like incredible. Anything we could do, everything in our community. We felt completely safe. We felt cared about. The majority of the people in our neighborhoods in Tulsa, people lived in houses, not apartment buildings.
Right.
And their fathers were present
Right.
in the homes. So we knew everybody's dad and mom, and we knew what church they went to as opposed to what church we went to, and what schools, we went to school together, and it was just an amazing experience.
Sure. Take us through almost down memory lane when you use that word rich, what it would be like walking down a street. What are some of the things you might see?
Well, the people that lived in the community, they watched out for the kids
Mm.
all the time. And if anything, if you fell on your bike or if you fell off your roller skates, somebody would come out there, some adult that lived you knew them, you knew who they were, and they would come and help you and if you skinned your knee or hurt your elbow or then you'd be taken care of. They would fix you up,
Sure.
But if it was really something serious, our doctor was right up the street, who was a very interesting man. His name was John H. Burt.
Mm.
He was very, very fair. He wanted to go to medical school, so he went and applied. He got into Harvard, but they thought he was white.
Mm.
And so he never told them. They never asked him,
Right.
but he used to tell us stories about it, how he went to Harvard, graduated with honors, did all this stuff, then came back to Tulsa to
Sure.
the same
His
neighborhood
community.
and really gave that community amazing medical service there. And he would walk sometimes in the summertime, he'd have on Bermuda shorts and a
Right.
shirt and a tie and his medical bag and his stethoscope around his neck.
Sure.
And he would just be checking all the kids who were out playing. Come here, let me look at your eye.
Right.
He would
Sure.
just like really take. So you don't see that
No.
anywhere.
Right,
But
right,
that's just how that was part of like we just and then if somebody got hurt, we put him on the put him in a wagon and pull him up to Dr. Britt's back door
right.
of his office, and he would go like, "What?" He said, "Emergency! We got emergency!" Because he hurt his toe. And then he would take time to help us. Just kids and stuff.
Right. Imagine that today.
You can't even believe even you would never see that anywhere.
Sure. Before we delve too far into your musical background, a lot of people don't know you're classically trained and graduated from
Yeah.
university. Talk to us even before affirmative action about
Oh,
what
I
that was
will.
like.
Oh, I went to school at first, all regular school on a daily basis, and I wanted to go to music school.
Right.
So they had a music conservatory there in a black community, and I went to that school, and it was amazing. It was the Latimers, the conservatory, and there was a completely musical family that was educated and at Juilliard and schools out of Florida and stuff, and the whole family. And then they all came back after they graduated and taught
Right.
at that school. Um, Amazing. I thought, well, this is just a little, but when I went to Boston, I went to Berkeley, and
Right.
I realized that everything I learned at that little school, I knew all that stuff when I got there, and there were people there were in the classes that didn't know any of this stuff. And the teachers were like, "How do you know this?" And I went, "Because I went to another school, like, but it wasn't a
Right.
university level. It was like that kind of thing." But yeah, so it was interesting.
Now, what's so fascinating about your life, because you're talking about the good stuff, is that something bad turned into something good in the end.
Mhm.
So you had a traumatic incident while you were at university.
That was at Oklahoma State University first,
Hmm.
yeah, where I was walking home to my student apartment off campus. It was on part of the campus, but just kind of on the edge of the campus. And they had student apartments, but they had a Alpha Phi Alpha house that said they didn't let the black sororities and fraternities have houses
Right.
on fraternity sorority row.
Right.
So theirs was off on the really on the edge of the campus over by the cattle yards, the animal
Mm.
husbandry departments,
Right.
that kind of thing. And they would sometimes the boys from that, you know, uh, fraternity that lived in that house would stand out on the porch and smoke. And in the wintertime, they would be out there standing out there, and I'm trudging in the snow that particular night around 10 o'clock. And these white guys pull up in a brand new Mercedes because it was a mixed school, but the black population being there was new.
Right.
So it was like a population student body of 23,000 people every
Wow.
day, but only 150 black students.
Right.
So we sort of everybody knew everybody, but you didn't get to see everybody all the time. So I saw them when I passed their house, and I said, "Hi," just waved at them, and they waved back at me, and they were just still standing there. And so I walked a little past that, and then these guys in the car pull up, and they say, "Want a party?"
Mm.
And I was like, "No, I don't know you. No." I'm still walking. So then they're just keeping pace with me and I'm walking really slow in the car. Then they got out of the car. They could step out of the car while it was rolling. Then they were like trying to pull me in the car.
Mm.
So then I'm fighting them you know, and then these guys from the fraternity came out there and
Broke it up.
rescued me.
Sure.
But then that made me feel that was on a Thursday. The next day was Friday, and I made up my mind I didn't want to go to that school anymore. And I had got a scholarship through the Lynx Cotillion,
Yes, I remember the
and I
links.
was
That's the one.
because I was a debutante,
Right.
and it was a cash scholarship,
Sure.
so I could like take my money out of the bank and go to another school wherever I decided to go.
Right.
But then when I quit and went home, I didn't tell my parents I was gonna do this. I didn't even tell my parents that happened to me,
Right.
'Cause nothing they didn't get to do anything to me, but they roughed me up,
Right.
that kind of thing. But it really made me feel like I did something wrong or
Right.
something. And I don't know why it works like that, but it did. It really made me feel. So I didn't want to tell my dad and my mom that because I was embarrassed
Sure.
for some silly reason. But just being young and inexperienced, and
Right.
I didn't want to upset them, anymore because of any more than me telling them that I wasn't gonna go back to that school.
Right.
My dad was like, "What are you gonna do?" That kinda said, "I don't know, but I don't wanna go to that school anymore, and I'm just gonna I don't know, I gotta think about it." He was like every day he would see me like, "Did you think about it?"
Right.
That kinda
Sure.
thing.
Correct.
"Are you
What's the manager?
thinking?
Right. Sure.
What are you thinking? We need to know."
Right.
But, so I got kinda, like, depressed,
Hmm.
'cause I didn't have any answers at that point.
Right.
I felt like I was just, like, no direction known, that
Right.
kinda thing. And, I started playing with a little group, just of course, I knew Ronnie and Charlie and, the guys, and they were
Sure.
playing in the
And
bands
we
and
should
doing
say
stuff.
who Ronnie and Charlie
The
are,
the
just in
Wilson
case.
brothers,
Right.
that would eventually become
Right.
the Gap Band
Right. And why is it called the Gap Band?
because of, Greenwood,
Hmm.
which was the main street which was the Black Wall Street,
Hmm.
but it was an area too, black it wasn't just a street.
Right.
It was a very long, long, long street, um, but it was the main artery
Right.
of of Black Wall Street, that
Right.
area of all it was like a black enterprise zone,
Sure.
really. Anything that you needed, excuse me, um, anything.
Right.
Like I mean,
And they do mean anything.
pharmacy,
Right.
car repair, anything,
Right.
all kinds of things, churches,
Right.
doctors' offices, dentists, everything was there, and entertainment and restaurants and you know, get your hair done,
Sure.
barbershops, beauty shops, everything, hotels. So there were a lot of traveling black entertainers.
Right.
That was one of the places that was one of the main places they wanted to be
Sure.
because they could travel and come there and stay in hotels and go and rock into a restaurant and sit down and eat a great meal
And be
or
free.
and be free. And so I got to meet a lot of people because my aunt's um, salon and barber. She had a barbershop, beauty shop with barbers on one side and beauty cosmetologists on the other side, and people doing nails and feet and massages and hair and the whole thing. So I got to meet so many people. At the first I was little, I didn't know
Right. Who
they
they
were
were.
famous,
Sure.
but it was really interesting. I got to meet Little Richard and all these people who had come through, James Brown, and
Right. Get their hair done.
get their hair done because my aunt was really an expert at it.
Sure.
Yeah, so
So we've got Greenwood, Archer, Pine,
Pine,
which makes the
this
Gap.
this Gap,
Hmm.
and so that's where the Gap Band
Sure.
took their name from.
And they'd be coming over all the time.
Yeah, they would be at our house all the time. And my dad would come in, he'd walk in the den, and there would be Robert Bland stretched
Right.
out on the couch asleep.
Right. After having eaten.
But he having eaten food, and whatever, hanging out, and then the sleep starts watching TV, and because people didn't have all these televisions in every room
Sure.
and thing like they do now. Everybody's
Right.
got to have they had a TV in every room, but having a television was like the
Yeah.
TV,
Big deal, right?
right? And so they would be in there. And my brother, who was Booney, who was MZ Parker, the fourth, the third, he'd be there and they'd be playing their guitars. They got their new guitars this one Christmas. I think our parents kind of uh, coordinated it because
Hmm.
they had some guitars and basses, but not good ones. So they got new ones,
Right.
and then that was the beginning of it.
Sure.
Really, the beginning.
Would you have ever imagined that they would have found on?
I thought they were excellent
Hmm.
when I really sat. I went. They invited me. So you have to come here. They used to act like they were rock stars
Right. You got to
in
practice.
junior high school.
Right.
So they walked around like giving people autographs, saying, "Save that. We're gonna be famous one day." When they're in
They
junior
were
high
right.
school, and it was really fun and
Right.
funny. And they invited me to Friday assembly
Sure.
at their junior high. And I went to their junior high school and I was like, oh, what are you guys gonna be doing? These little kids, and they started playing some Jimi Hendrix stuff, and they were killing on it, and all the girls were screaming and crying,
Yeah.
and I was like, "What is going on?" And then I told Robert I told Charlie and Ronnie,
Right.
I saw them at a nightclub there. I said, have you guys went to see their little group?" They call themselves the Crown Royals.
Mhm.
And they were named after whiskey, but they
Well, of
didn't
course.
drink,
Right, sure,
but
right.
they were too young.
It's
But
catch.
the Crown Royals.
Right.
So he goes, they said, "No, those little knuckleheads. I don't know." I said, "No, you need to go see them. They really, you should hear what they're doing." And once they did sit down and really listen to them playing, they went into some rehearsal. All of a sudden, they were all in a band together,
Right,
and
right.
that was the beginning of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Charlie was smart. So we went on this detour where something really tragic wound up turning into a blessing
Mhm.
because how did you wind up meeting Ike Turner in this small little
Well,
club?
I didn't meet him in a club, and I wasn't part of the original
Right.
ICAS. I was later on. The real originals were Vanetta Fields,
Mhm,
Robbie
mhm.
Montgomery, and Jessie Thompson. Those are the three girls that you see as the original ICAS.
Right.
Three women, I should say, because they were like our big sisters. We looked up to them. But later on, I got to join them, but I didn't know them.
Mhm.
I had only seen their show once, and and when I saw their show, my best friend was with me. Her name is Linda, and my uncle, took us to see their show. And when I saw the Ikettes come out, something inside me, in my stomach, in my heart, in my soul, said, "I'm going to do that. I want to do that." And I said it to my friend. But to Linda, I said, "Linda, I'm going to do that." She goes, "In your dreams?" She laughed at me. I
Right,
said, "No, for real. I'm going to do that." She said, "How? You don't even know them." I said, "I don't know." And I didn't meet them then.
right,
They left town, went on about their business. And then in the interim of when they came back again, they I got a phone call one Saturday morning, and it was Ike Turner, and he was calling from Wichita, Kansas.
mm,
And they had called the union in Tulsa, Musicians Union,
right,
and spoken to Ernie Fields Sr., who was the head of the union there. And he gave him my phone number of my parents because nobody had a cell phone or
right,
anything.
of course.
And my mom answers the phone, and she was kind of in a bad
Right,
mood
it's like
because I had been out late at night, and then I was on Saturdays we were supposed to get up and clean and
right.
do all this stuff, and I was like totally like
That's
I'm
how
sleeping
sounds
in, I'm
familiar.
tired, and she said,
Some man
so
call.
the phone rings, and she comes in my room, she goes, "The phone is for you." And I'm like, "What time is it?" She goes, "It's 8 o'clock, and it's for you." 8 o'clock in the morning, like,
Who's
what?
calling?
And I thought it was somebody kidding around on the phone,
Right.
and it was actually Ike. But I hung up the phone in his face, and I said, "What?" He said, "This is Ike Turner." And I said, "This is somebody." Linda probably told somebody what I said. I said, "Stop playing on the phone." And I hung up the phone, and then he called me right back again
It's like,
instantly. And I
right.
was like, he said, "This is Ike Turner. Don't hang up this damn phone anymore."
I can imagine.
And I could hear it like that really was a different voice. Wait a minute. And I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry,
Yeah.
sir. Like people play on the phone, and I'm
Right.
sorry." So, well, okay, forget about that. So, are you around? Are you going to be around? Because we're going to be there, and if you're interested, we're looking for someone to take a job with us.
Mm.
And I was like, "For real?
For real, real.
For for real, real?" He's like, "Yes, for real. Come down. We'll meet you. You can audition. We can meet you, and we can talk about it. And we'll be at this hotel." And I was dumbfounded. So I immediately could not. I tried to go back to sleep, and I remember laying on the bed, putting the covers over my face, going, "Is this happening to me?" That kind of thing. And I didn't tell my mom. I didn't tell anybody because I didn't want to jinx it,
Right.
that kind of thing. And I had gotten a job to do for a jewelry company that was
Right.
going to advertise in a newspaper, the Oklahoma Eagle,
Right.
which was a black owned paper or black owned newspaper. And I had to model jewelry, and this guy was going to take pictures. The photographer was taking the picture, so I had to do that earlier in the day, and then I was going to meet them, and I had my friend drive me down because I didn't take my parents' car down and meet them. And we went to the hotel. I took her with me, and we walk in, and they tell us to go upstairs to the suite. And we get up there, and it's still early evening, and they open the doors half open, and Ike Turner sitting there on a couch, dressed nicely, but in a robe, but not his pajamas,
Mhm.
but
Right.
just like he had on slacks and some house shoes and a robe. He was on the phone and he was like really angry at somebody. And so he he stopped yelling in the phone when we peeked in the door,
Right.
and he stopped yelling in the phone and said, "Oh, come in." And then make yourself at home. He had all this refreshments and everything. Make yourself at home. I'll be with you in a moment. He went, "No, what? All of a sudden," he went back on the phone, really vicious. So we were sitting there like, whoa,
Oh.
oh my goodness. And then I got scared. I was like, maybe this isn't for me.
Right.
I don't know. And then we were just sitting there for a while. As soon as he finished his phone call, he said, he looked at my friend, he looked at me and went like, "You're the person we came to see."
Right.
I was like, "Okay." And then said, "Tina, I'll be back here in a minute." I said, "Okay." And then 2 seconds later, she came through the door.
Right.
And
Wow.
then I was really like, wow, Tina
Sure.
Turner, you know?
What were your thoughts?
Everything, everything and nothing all at once. Like my brain went blank.
Right.
I couldn't remember my name. If you had asked me my name right then and there,
Right.
I couldn't have, I couldn't have thought. I wouldn't have had a clear thought. I was just like, can I talk?
Yeah. Right.
And so she goes, "Come go with me." And we should go into another part of the suite, and we open these double doors, and there are people in there like doing costumes and doing wigs, and
Right.
a couple of valets that
Right.
she had
Whole
that worked
team.
for them. And she was talking to me. She goes, and she's looking at me, and she starts, "Do you have any makeup?" And I go, "No." She goes, "Okay, I'm gonna put some makeup on your face." I said, "Okay, sit here." And she starts making my face up, but she's interviewing me while she's making my face up. And
Right.
I'll keep wanting to look in the mirror, and she
Sure.
goes, "Don't look. I'm doing it. I know what I'm doing." I'm like, "Okay,"
Right.
I was just like putty. I
Yes.
was
I know.
putty in her hands,
Literally.
and then she pulls out a dress and she goes, "Okay." Then at that time, she goes, I wear the exact same size dress as she did.
Mm.
I was the exact same height as her, and I wore the exact same size shoe.
Mm.
So that was the other thing. They were interested in like
Right.
what you're gonna look like
Of course.
on the line, right?
But
Um, and then she got me all dressed up and made up and put on this wig and everything. And she goes, "Okay, you want the job?" I said, "Yes." She goes, "Okay, we leave tonight."
wow.
And I was like, "What time is it?" It's like 6 o'clock in the evening. "What time?" She said, "After our show." I'm like, "Okay, that means I gotta go home, tell my parents." Ooh,
Right.
what if they say no?
Right.
But I was actually old enough to go, but still, I
Right.
felt
And old enough as in
it's
15?
like 18.
18.
Yeah,
Okay.
18 going on 19.
Sure.
And I was like, okay. And and so then when I came out of the room with her, she wanted Ike to see me, but the room was filled with all these people
Mm.
that worked for them and the band and the other girls and everybody, Rhonda Graham, everybody was there.
Right.
And I was like, whoa, all these people are here now. And my friend Linda was like, "You're doing that.
Right.
You're doing this. You're going to do this," like that. I was like, yeah. So then she's like, "That was some magic. That's magic, you
Sure.
know?"
Right.
And I went home, did my laundry. I could only take one suitcase. I told my mother, I got a job. She goes, "Doing what?"
Mm-hmm.
I said, "I'm going to go on a tour." She goes,
With
Touring what? What are you talking
exactly,
about?
right.
I said, "It's a
Speaking.
music tour with Ike and Tina Turner." She said, "What?
Right,
What?"
right,
And she said, "Well, you're gonna have to talk to your dad
right.
about." I said, "Well, when he gets here, I'll tell him. But now I got to do my laundry, do all this." So she was like, "How did this happen?
Mm,
How do they even know you? What did you do? Did you call them? What did did you
right,
write to them? What did you do?"
right.
I said, "I didn't do anything. They were looking for me, and I don't know why, but they did. Somebody mentioned me to them, and they said, 'Oh yeah, we'll call her up.' That was it."
Wow,
And then I actually did leave that night, and we went on a world tour, and I didn't see my mom and dad or my family for 2 years
wow,
because we did 347 one-nighters in 365 days.
wow. Oh my god. What was your favorite song of theirs when you first met them?
Oh, um, I liked, "Think It's Gonna Work Out Fine."
Mm,
I keep you start to get next to me. You know that?
mhm,
Think it's gonna work out. I like that song. And she used to do another song that I never heard on a recording, but live, she did a song called "Dust My Broom." That was an old blues song,
mhm,
but it was really hard rock, kind of a rockish funk
mhm,
rock thing.
mhm,
And I thought that song was really good. And "A Love Like Yours Don't Come Knocking Every Day,"
mhm,
which was like I really liked her doing that song. And I liked um, "River Deep Mountain High" too.
mhm,
I like
mhm.
that. And "When I was a young girl, did always had a puppy." That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you sense that their music not only spoke to you, but spoke to the generation at that time? Because it's really edgy and obviously has a rock,
I
but still
think
has a lot of blues, like
a
you
lot
said.
of it had to do with the sound.
Mhm,
The sound of their music.
mm,
At that time, before they had worked with Phil Spector.
right,
Before Phil Spector, Ike produced all the "Think It's Gonna Work Out Fine," all those their original big hits,
right.
because he was a I don't think he gets the correct credit for his musical expertise.
Right.
He was an excellent guitar player. He won some people don't realize he won Grammys for his own albums,
Right.
the guitar albums. And he had a really good ability to capture the essence of something.
Mm,
That was that was there's something about that. Even though he was pretty down to earth when I met them. And not all the other stuff that came later, he wasn't that all the time.
mm,
And their relationship was really cool, and they were a power couple. They were really a power couple, and they were about that business.
mm,
And it was like working for them was like going to the university of how to be in the business,
mm,
how to conduct yourself, how you should look. You shouldn't be anywhere half done.
right,
You should if you're gonna step out in public and you know that you have a public persona, not that you have to be overdone,
right,
but be pulled together all the time.
right.
And it really affects you because they don't have to preach it to you. They practiced it right in front of you. And the majority of the people that were working, all the people that worked for them were young people. And I took that very seriously, looking out for us. Um, Making sure that we didn't go none of us girls went anywhere unescorted,
Mm,
ever. We didn't go to a club and then, "Oh, I'm gonna stay with these people." No. Everybody that came in together, left together. We could go eat. They really looked out for us. Um, we made really great money for those times. And when our bookings would hold us over or something, like in Las Vegas or something, he would always give us a cash bonus. I mean, like really nice cash bonuses. And he took care of business. He didn't owe us money. ever. He really took care of it. He also taught us how to read contracts.
Right. You said that he's a very good businessman.
Really excellent and talking to you about how not to be caught up in any situations like the things you see happening now with like Diddy and all this, people talking about freak offs and all that. Not to be putting yourself in positions for any of that. Um, and we didn't have any of that kind of experience around us. It was pretty much like you were sheltered and taken care of. And everywhere we went, people recognized us everywhere, even in Europe. We took pictures here before we went to my first tour of Europe with them. In Chicago. We went there to do the pictures specifically. And when we got there, I didn't know what they were going to do with them. I was just this thing for taking pictures.
Yeah.
And we get there, I was in Piccadilly Circus, and we looked up, and there was this giant billboard of us on one side and Tina and Ike on the other side, facing each other at Piccadilly Circus.
Wow.
But when we arrived in London, at Heathrow, there was when the way the runway was set up, they had fences on each side, so, nobody could, but it was lined with thousands of people with signs like the Beatles.
Right.
When the
Wow.
Beatles came to America,
Sure. They so
that's
appreciate
how they,
American.
that's how they welcomed us
Wow.
in the UK when we went there, and that kicked off our European tour.
Wow.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And it was like another world out there,
Absolutely. Since you brought it up, and we can end this section on this note, do you sense that it's just the sheer pressure of that level of focus? Because, like you said, you did see some of the anger and the temper, but do you think that it gets to a point where things are going to implode because there's just too much stress? Somebody needs an outlet when they're so
Sometimes,
focused.
if you're not aware of who you are in it, that's the main thing. Is keeping your focus on what you're doing and how you want to live your life and how you want to be, what you want to be involved in, and reading. And, they say all the time, read the room, that kind of thing. Well, it's the same thing. You have to read where you are. Sometimes you can just walk in a place and that I don't need to be here.
Right.
Leave.
Sure.
Don't
Right.
sit around and wait for a bigger sign
Sure. Right.
that you don't need to be there.
Right.
Leave. And sometimes somebody will tell you, oh, you have to just make an appearance. Just go. It's going to be, and for young people, they're hungry
Mm-hmm.
for success, to be acknowledged, to be noticed,
Right.
that kind of thing. And somebody says, oh, well, somebody famous that you will be influenced by
Right.
is going to be there,
Yes, always. Doesn't.
and you want to meet them, and
Sure.
oh, maybe you'll be discovered.
Right.
No, don't fall for that.
Yeah. Good.
Like keep the things about how to conduct yourself without being crazy. That.
Mhm.
Don't throw that away.
So we were talking about how incredible the education was to start with such a well-established group that was so polished, working with Ike and the
Mhm.
Ikettes, as well as Tina Turner. It's still a big step to you being able to have your own name. And I know
Mm.
because of Tina, you decided to have your own name, Maxayn. Talk to us about sort of getting signed and that whole process of starting your own group. And I know it wasn't the first.
Well, when after I had been there like 2, 3 years, almost 3 years with them, they were having their own talks about going their separate ways.
Right.
But it wasn't something that happened like, oh, we're done. It was like a gradual gearing down, getting out of it, changing, the world changing. Um, Tina wanting something, Ike wanting something, going their separate ways and having arguments, that kind of thing. Um, but the business was still going forward. But then they put us on like a hiatus,
Mm.
and we didn't know if we were going to be called back. We stayed out here. I'm not from LA, so I had an apartment with Tina's sister
Mm.
and three of us: Aline Bullock,
Right.
Rhonda Graham, and who worked for Tina till forever. Until Rhonda passed away. She was there, and Rhonda was one of the roommates,
Wow.
and me, and um, when they decided, when they didn't know what they were going to really be doing, then they decided, okay. Then I said, this is too weird. I'm going to go home. Well, I went home, and while I was home, Ernie Fields Jr.,
Mhm.
who was whom we lost a couple of, well, now a couple of years ago now. Um, he was here doing a lot of television stuff and booking musicians for a lot of television themes and bands on different shows. And he was the MD for Bobby Blue Bland,
Right. Music director.
music
Mhm.
director,
Sure.
and he um, called me and asked me if I wanted to do that blues tour.
Sure.
So we did that tour. It started out in Canada, coming to America, back and forth, and that was great. And then I thought, well, that was nice. Because I always think when something in this industry that you can, and that they said a few other people feel that way, that you get a job, it's not going to last
Right.
forever.
Sure.
So you always get your mind sort of like wrapped around, like, do this for this long, however, right? And then you don't know what's next, but something will be good. I mean, it's a lot of stuff going on. So we did that, and while I'm on the road, Ernie said to me when we got to Chicago, he said, some of my friends want to meet you.
Mm.
They heard you sing and they want to meet you. And I said, okay. They want to meet me. It's okay. And we played at a place called the High Chaparral
Okay.
in Chicago. And so when backstage, I came backstage after we had played and a bunch of it sold out. And Donny Hathaway was standing there.
Right.
And he gives me his card and says, I'm Donny Hathaway. I and I was like taking his card going, I know who you are.
Exactly.
Are you crazy? He goes, well, I really would like to work with you. And I was like, for real? For real? That kind of thing. And he goes, yeah, but I have to go to New York. Of course, he never made it back.
Right.
But he had my mom's number, and I would just always give my mom and dad's number out for if somebody wanted to get in touch with me later. Then when he got, well, at that same day, I met Andre Lewis and Marlo Henderson,
Right.
and they had been playing with Buddy Miles.
Mhm.
And I had been hearing the song on the radio. No, my mind is going through them changes. Right, Buddy Miles. And I was like, I love this song. I love this song. Who are these guys? Because that was a different
Sure.
sound.
Yes. Absolutely.
And Ike had said that before. He said, that's going to be a big hit. And I said, you think so? He said, I'm positive. Watch.
Right.
And sure enough, that whole thing got ushered in with funk rock,
Right.
sort of like fusion.
Mhm.
And it was a very interesting time in music because there had been one kind of R&B kind of formulaic thing,
Right.
and then this was, of course, Sly Stone.
Right. Changing up the
Mm,
game with the
love,
funk.
yep. Sly is I mean, they did do a special about him, a documentary about him, but his sound and everything just changed, approach to songwriting, everything, just genius. And so Buddy had been working with uh, Jimi Hendrix, and so his sound was different, and it was also part of a music um, legacy of out of Omaha, Nebraska,
Right.
which is famous for having a lot of great musicians that came through, that lived, that grew up there, worked together, worked there, people coming through there. So most Buddy, Andre Lewis, Buddy Miles, Hank Red, these guys were all from Omaha, Nebraska. Then they added some other elements like David Hull and Charlie Carp, who were playing, and that made up the Buddy Miles group. Um, then he said, they said, oh, we saw you were talking to the guy in the Big Apple hat, which is Donny Hathaway,
Right.
but we wanted to talk to you about being in a band with us.
Mhm.
And I said, who are you? We play with Buddy Miles, but we want you to play with us. and you can go with the guy in the Big Apple hat, or you can go with us." I said, "Well, where are you guys going? What are you
Right.
talking about?" And they go, and Marlo goes, "Space, the final frontier."
Serious.
But he said
The
it
pickup lines.
very deadpan,
Sure.
like he was an alien. So I
Right.
always
Sure.
called him the alien.
Right.
And he goes, "Space," you know. And I went, "What?"
It's like,
So I went to space with them. And I went to Boston and joined them, and we stayed in this big, huge 32-room mansion and played music, and I wrote songs, and just everything just came together. And then Buddy decided he needed a break, so that we said okay. And then we got a manager, Marty Silva,
right.
the late Marty Silva, in uh, San Diego, and he had just opened a new venue called Earth.
Mm,
And we went to San Diego and
right.
stayed on out on Point Loma. He got us a house out there, and we played 5 days a week at the Earth,
Right.
and that we put our band together with Emilio Thomas, drummer from Texas, and Marlo, Andre, and me. And that was it. And we played there every night, and then we opened for all these different people because Earth brought in people like Boz Scaggs and uh, Elvin Bishop, and I mean, you just name it, Ravi Shankar, all these people came, played, and we would open for them.
Right.
Um, but when I was reading this thing, what is the guy that says you need to put in your 10,000 hours,
Right.
that kind of
Exactly.
thing?
Right.
Um, well, that's where we put in our
For sure.
10,000 hours,
Right.
was at Earth Club Earth
Right.
in Mission Beach, and we had it was like so much fun working. We working out all kinds of songs. All kinds of people came to see us. From every walk of life, and all kinds of musicians would come there and see us, and became a really well-known place. And then we started we had been working in New York with Luther Dixon, who is a great songwriter.
Sure.
um, before we came out, before we left from the East Coast in Boston, we would go to um, New York. We'd stay at the City Squire Hotel, which
Sure.
was new then, and then we would go to record plant, and we would work on songs. And Luther Dixon said he wanted to sponsor us, so he made it possible for us to record, and
Right.
then we got a record deal, and from that with Warner's. And then we went to San
San
Diego
Diego.
and put in our 10,000 hours before we got signed.
Mm,
We were there, and then we got signed, and then we moved back into LA,
right.
and that was the beginning of the Maxayn band. And it wasn't my idea to make it Maxayn. It was the band's idea to make it Maxayn.
Sure.
So that was the thing.
Absolutely. I want to tease out a little nuance there that you had about the songwriting because you don't give yourself enough credit. You're very modest. And go back to Bobby Blue Bland because if I'm
Mm.
not mistaken, you wrote a song with Bobby.
Yeah, well, I did some recording and stuff with him. Um, I did some of the stuff that I kind of co-wrote. I wouldn't say I co-wrote it, but because I didn't really get credit because I didn't know business
Sure.
that
Right. You
heavy.
co-wrote it, you just didn't get credit. There's a
Yeah, right.
difference.
There's a difference. So yeah, kind of.
And that was, what was
Uh,
that song? How'd it go?
Should I let him go?
Hmm.
That song, and messing around with that.
Sure.
Yeah.
How's it go?
Should I let him go? It's like one of
Sure.
those torch singer
Exactly right.
songs,
Sure.
you
What
know.
was it like working with Bobby and what did you love most about him?
Oh, I like that he was such a gentleman and such a blues king,
Mm,
but not in an arrogant way. He was very, it was just like it was his natural state of being.
mm,
And he was very much a gentleman, very much fun to talk to, easygoing. People, if you met him, you liked him.
right.
Everybody, there were so many young singers and blues uh, people who were striving to be known. They would all come see him. No matter where we were, he had a big audience. We played in Detroit, we played Cleveland, we played New York City, Boston, everywhere, anywhere we went, and he played all the major cities, and it would always be sold out, always.
Yeah, music's
And
life.
he worked constantly.
Yes.
I mean, all the time. I think he worked up until he wasn't anymore, until he couldn't do it anymore. He's passed away now, but
Yeah.
he was amazing, and he was very kind, and he was a generous person. Um, he wanted everybody to be happy. He wanted everybody to be good. But
Yeah. What's one of his songs that you love most?
oh, I liked everything he did. Just his approach. Well, what I really learned, who I really another person that I want to mention was Joel Scott,
Mhm.
who was his orchestrator and producer,
Yeah.
arranger. Um, I learned a lot more about music, being in a band, in a group. If you're going to sing in an orchestra, you're going to sing with them where you should be in it as a singer, that kind of thing. And he was really a music professor. He was really smart. And so he had really directed Bobby about his approach to how you record successfully, and just not to make things um instead of singing a song,
Mm,
inhabit the music,
right.
and put yourself in it. Don't just sing around it, because then that puts you on the outside. And so some music and some artists that are very successful are artists who do just that.
Mm,
They don't they're not trying to do fancy runs like you hear a lot of some of the younger singers do now. They want to sing too many notes in a bar, in a bar of music, instead of singing a melody,
right.
and sticking to that with authenticity. Luther Vandross was the king of that, without singing a lot of ad libs.
Right.
He just sang the melody so genuinely,
Mm,
so inhabited, that's what you loved about him. Whitney Houston too.
sure.
You
Who's
know,
somebody, because I know you did a lot of session work and things like that, that you worked with, that you really felt emulated that and inhabited the music?
Celine Dion.
Yeah.
Celine Dion definitely, and because she's a very, I found her to be very refreshing to work with. I met her before she came to America.
Mm, while she
Uh,
was still in Canada.
while she was in Montreal. I
Mm,
met her. I saw her on TV on some local video show they had. And then when I came down, we played there with Gina. I was on road with Gino Vanelli.
right.
And when I came downstairs to go to the Hard Rock Cafe for an after show party, those kind of things, um, she was standing in the lobby and said, "I wanted to meet you." And I was like, "Didn't I just see you on TV?"
Exactly
That
right.
kind of thing. "Come go with me, I'm going to the Hard Rock a couple of blocks down the street." And I took her. It was thousands of people out in
Of
front of
course.
it. And so I said, "Hold my hand, we'll get through this crowd," because I had an all access pass. And we got in, and Gino and Giovanelli actually knew her,
Right.
but they were like, "Oh, little Celine." They were
Sure. She's
I
great.
was like, "I think you guys should produce her." But they weren't interested
Mm,
and to do any production at that time, because
mm,
Gino was riding high. They were riding high on their own success,
right.
and which they were fun to work with as well. And really super musical people, great musicianship, great writing. Gino was a great performer, great singer, and but when I told her, I said, "Your voice is like amazing. Well, if you just keep being seen and heard, you're gonna get there. You're gonna get there." "I want to come to America," she said. Such a sweet spirit. And she one day I get a call from David Foster. He says, I'm producing a new singer, and I need you to come over, and we're gonna be doing it." So I went over, and there was a bunch of other singers there that I knew very well. And I said, "Who is the artist?" Nobody knew. We don't know. He's gone to the airport to pick her up. And so we're eating lunch, waiting on him to come back to his place, his big studio.
Sure. In
compound
Malibu, by
in
the
Malibu.
ocean.
That's right. And he comes in, and my back is to the door when they come in, and he says, "This is the artist," and before and when I turned around. I didn't know who I was going to see, and it was Celine, and she immediately looked at me, Maxan, I made it.
Right.
And everybody in the room went, "How do you know her?"
Right.
And there was Maxan knows everybody. No, I don't. I don't know everybody, but
Almost
oh,
everybody
yeah.
does.
But she was, and of course, when everybody else heard, I had heard her sing on some of her really, really beginning stuff, but her voice was a standout. And I said, they saw you and they heard you, and now you know, the rest is history.
Mm.
This is it. And she goes, I hope it's going to be good. And
Yeah.
it was excellent. She's just, of course, now Rita Franklin.
Right. This whole nother level.
That's a whole, it's different,
Sure.
but it's different, but there's something there that's familiar.
Mm.
Again, that dedication, that willingness to put yourself in it, that people who have that, it doesn't matter what genre of music they're in. That's why people say, well, who is your favorite? What's this? But I have favorites in different genres by how they perform it and what they do with it. So you can love anything if somebody gives you a reason to.
Sure. So here's the challenge for the young artists today, some of whom may not have all the vocal training and all the expertise, to really try to understand how to do that, how to inhabit the music
Hmm.
and yet really continue to develop their voice so that they get a sound and find a unique sound. What advice do you have for someone like that?
Well, if you don't there's a lot of to be said for having natural ability, but nobody just rolls out of bed with that, like we're just all together. You really do have to put your put you have to invest in wanting to learn from you get a good vocal coach, somebody, but not, a really good vocal coach who's going to do things with your voice that can say, okay, you're struggling with controlling your breath, or your placements are pinched or something, so that you can really hear the difference in how much even if you have a natural ability, you can enhance what you have and make it even better by investing time in working with it and finding someone really good to work with like that.
But you've also had a very interesting pathway because you've worked with so many great people and been willing sometimes to sublimate yourself, even though you have such a phenomenal voice. And it seems like that's not something everybody's willing to do. They're not always willing to be in the background.
Well, I'll say this, singing background is a lot more difficult than singing lead.
Right.
It is, and background vocals are, there was a film that somebody put out, a documentary called 20 Feet from Stardom.
Right.
And what they implied in that was that these are the people who sing, but not good enough to be out front. That's not true. Those singers and the people who do that work, my friends and colleagues that do it, are people who know and understand blending, the shape of a vowel, how to really make it work, and give the lead vocal a place to sit. That it's a lot going on with that. And it's not anything to be taken lightly, but it makes people sound better than they are. Sometimes it gives them a lot more freedom.
Right.
That kind of thing.
And I don't know if you can give any names. You don't have to if it would be too embarrassing. But it has certainly been said that without certain people doing the background vocals,
That's right.
they would not have.
This is true.
Is there some story, even if you can't say who the name might be, where you were there and you know that you all essentially helped that artist
Oh yeah.
sound the way they need to sound?
We've as background, and when I've been working in backgrounds with singing live, sometimes you do a tremendous amount of saving doing but it's quick, it
Yeah.
goes by fast, but it's a safety move,
Mm.
and it works. You know, you can, because you're really dialed in. You're listening to what the artist that you're supporting, what they need, and you know if their voice, you know whether or not they're in good voice or not. You know these, because they'll share that with you, like,
Right.
"Oh, my voice is scratchy" or something. So we cover, we stand in. We do it for them, and make them, and help them succeed, because then when they succeed, people paid their money to come see them. You're there, but you help them deliver what the people paid to come see, and that's being professional.
Mhm.
That's what it is. That's that's part of the work.
So with all the technology and things like that that the younger people have, but
Mhm.
probably not the time and dedication in all cases to put in all the years that you put in.
Yeah, well, they don't have the opportunity.
Mhm.
That's the other thing that's very unfortunate, because, like, doing a lot of work, you're gonna learn. You just gonna become, familiar with it. You're gonna understand more where you sit in it, what you do in it, what you discover, things that about yourself, and skills that you develop, skills along the way that you didn't have before. But that's from doing it, really immersing yourself in it. And when you do that, it's like something that nobody can take away from you. You own it. It's a set of skills, you know, that you will develop. But young people don't have that opportunity, because people are sitting in their bedrooms going tap 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 and punch 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 and type type type,
Mhm.
and they make a kind of music,
Mhm.
but I don't think a lot of that music has the depth of some of the music that came before. I mean, even Motown, which was considered black pop, if
Right.
I would say, at that time, but it became universal. But the songwriting
Right.
and the production and the performances
Right.
were unbelievably so good, so well done, and just so sassy. And when you went to see the artist, Motown was famous for having their artists be so groomed and so well rehearsed and so choreographed, and it was unbelievable. It was just unbelievable. It was wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there someone who's passed where it'd be safe to say if it weren't for the background singers, they wouldn't have the voice that
Oh,
and sound?
well, the people that make it, is sometimes it isn't the quality of their voice, is the delivery of it. Some people think that you have to have a bell tone voice. You can't have any scratches. No, but I always say that's not true. How many clear bell tone notes did Ray Charles sing?
Right.
None.
Right.
Everything had character
Right.
in it, but he knew how to immerse himself
Mm.
and inhabit whatever he did. So the way he would just say words,
Right.
the way he would come into a line, the way he would release a note,
Mhm.
that's what you were there for.
Right.
You wanted to be present for that with him, to hear him do that.
Sure.
So.
Talk to us about some of the younger artists you've worked with, because I know you've worked with Britney Spears and people of
Mhm.
that nature, and sort of what you see and what you sense in trying to help sort of
Well,
support them.
in some of the younger artists, they get a lot of support, because they get to really, some of them write lyrics, but they're doing it sort of like, I don't know if they get to give it so much thought,
Hmm.
because they're sort of like writing on a beat.
Hmm.
Some of it, they want it to rhyme.
Hmm.
They want what their what their target thing is different from what we were doing. Um, they want to hit the beat,
Right.
that kind of thing. So it's a it's a different kind of art. It still is an art of music, but it's different. It isn't coming from the same place. It isn't what they aspire to do out of it is completely different from from what we wanted to do,
Right.
and who our heroes were. Now, there are some young people who are looking toward um, some of the older artists who did great work. But I teach vocals, and I've had students that I ask them, for instance, if I say, "Have you ever listened to?" I get them to listen to Aretha Franklin.
Right.
They don't know who she is.
Right.
I get them to listen to Shaka Khan, and they don't know who that is. But they're just young,
Right.
and it's not a slight against those, you know, what I call queens
Right.
of this, goddesses of this.
Mhm.
Uh, they they just don't know who
Right. The
they are
generation.
because they've been listening to. They think Brandy is old.
Right.
Yeah, Brandy. That album came out alone. It's like
Sure.
what,
That was like yesterday. Right.
yeah, but that's their experience. This is their time,
Right.
and so some of it I love, some of it I don't like so much, but some of it I realize that it's not being made for me.
Right.
It's made for their time.
Right.
And that's okay
Mhm.
because but nothing music lives
Right.
and songs grow. They mature
Oh,
and they do different things. And somebody hears a different version of it, a different concept, and they put their own spin on something that came out 50 years ago,
right.
and you go like, "Oh, this is a version of that song.
Shoot.
It's really different. It's really nice." But that's somebody that has listened and appreciated the musicality of it, and then they say, I have an idea about this that can bring this forward into our time."
Right.
And it works. So I like when people do those kind of things too.
Absolutely. I want to make sure we talk about Ma Rainey because that is such a complicated role and taking on that music. How did that opportunity come about?
uh, well, again, I've never auditioned for anything. I've always just been called, and I got a call from Branford Marsalis, and he said, "Do you want to sing some Village Blues?" And I was like, "Yes. Ooh, yeah. What is it?" Now, I didn't know even what it was. It was,
Sure.
and then that it turns out it was that. Um, you're gonna be in this movie with Viola Davis, which is like hallowed. I have to say her name with
Such reverence.
Viola Davis. Miss Davis is
Mm.
one of my. I saw her in Antoine Fisher.
Yes.
That was my first time seeing her on the screen,
Like that.
and I went to the movies to see that.
Yes. Same.
And because I love Denzel and all
Right.
his art and stuff he's doing, putting together, and her she didn't s- she didn't say anything
Mm.
in that movie. She didn't say a word. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
But he spoke to her and said, "Didn't you miss me? Didn't you do that whole scene?"
Yeah.
And her reaction, just her reaction, just killed. And I left that movie telling people, "Okay, you got to go see Antoine Fisher." And when you do, there's this actor, and her name is Viola Davis, and she's going to be a big star. I
Mm.
walked out of there saying that she's going to be major, and everybody said, "Who?"
Right.
And I said, "Viola Davis. Don't forget this name."
Mm.
And now
But-
the rest is history, as they say. She's magnificent, and she had it all the time. It was in her, and she definitely knows how to inhabit a character.
Mhm.
She's, again, there's that word, inhabit. You have to let yourself go into it and do it. And she's excellent. She's just one of those very talented, amazing people.
Sure. I know a lot of times they put these things together separately. Did you actually get a chance to meet her?
No,
Right.
I didn't.
Usually. Right.
But I sang the songs,
Right.
and I sang 6 songs, and they had me come to Louisiana, to New Orleans, and um, the Marsalis family has a school and a compound
Right.
with all of this music stuff and a concert hall, a big, beautiful, amazing facility, studio, and he had put together a rhythm section.
Mm.
Um, and they were excellent players. And m- director, Mr. Wolf, the director was there, and he was just so awesome too. And he had done a lot. He's done a lot of work in New York and
Mm.
on for stage and screen. And so I was I learned I was familiar with Ma Rainey already, um, but I really studied her delivery,
Yeah.
listening online. And when I got there, it was nobody saying, "Okay, we want you to do this, this." Nobody said anything. It was like, "Okay, you're here, you know your part." Okay, and I'm like, "Oh, okay." And and then when I got there one day and then we recorded the next day. So they had been rehearsing and uh and he wanted it to be very authentic so that they didn't go too contemporary
Mm.
with chord structure and
Right.
voicings. He said, they hadn't thought of that for 100 years.
Yeah.
We got another 50 years before those kind of chords come into being. And I really liked that working with Branford Marsalis because he was very, very adamant about keeping it authentic.
Mm.
So I knew when I came in with my part, it had to sound authentic the way blues singers sang then
Right.
as opposed to now. And I had my own idea. And when I did it, Mr. Wolf ran out there and said, "Who told you to do that?" And I said, "Nobody." And I was nervous. And he
Sure.
goes, "It's perfect. That's exactly what I want." I was like, "Good, I'm on."
Mm.
So I'm glad I did my homework.
Sure. To say, is there a song in particular that you really like or that you really fell in love with in a different way?
Oh, I would, I liked, I I liked the song that they said, "Come on, ma, have a good time." Da, 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 where she sings, I want a black bottom when she sings that. The big black bottom, that whole thing. I really like that song. But there was another song, and I'm trying to think of the title of it. I really liked the lyrics. It was really a good song, and it was about come on, Ma, come on, Pa, that kind of thing.
Mm.
Really,
Yeah.
really good.
Sure. So take us now, just so we can sort of go full circle in the time. And I'm not sure that your parents would be with us, but
They're
just
not.
sort of when you reached your um, full circle moment to get back home, whether it was from the Ike tour, the Bobby Blue Band tour, the
Uh,
Maxayn, things like that, and sort of really maybe having them fully appreciate what their daughter had gone off to do, what that was
um,
like.
I did one year I did a festival thing that they had in a
Mhm.
park there, and my dad, I remember my dad coming up to the stage. I didn't know he did this. He had walked up to the stage, and the stage was kind of tall, so he was like this, resting his chin, but he was like over on the edge, and I didn't think about I said, I don't wanna think about them being out there because then I'll be looking at them like, "Is this okay?" You know, that kinda thing. But, when I looked over at my dad, he was like just the look on his face, I knew that he appreciated what I had done, because at first, when I told him I had quit going to school and I was gonna do this, then I said, "But I'll go back to school, don't worry." And he goes, "Mm." Sometimes people don't make it back, "Well,
Mhm.
I'm gonna go back," that kind of thing. And, he was, "I hope you know what you're doing, and this is gonna be that's a hard road to go down and do everything," that parents try to say to keep you
Right.
on the straight and narrow and make sure because they want you to succeed, and they don't want you to have a hard time. They don't want you to be caught up in something that makes you unhappy or ruins your opportunity or anything. But my dad, gave me his seal of approval. My mom just said we used to. She said, "Me and your dad, we used to lay in the bed and hold hands and go like, you think she's okay? You think
Mm.
she's all right now? That kind of thing."
Sure. Absolutely. What continues to bring you passion and joy, not only about the field, but just about your life?
The fact that I get to work with young people who are aspiring writers, singers, uh, uh, musicians. Um, and I work with private students, and right now I have 4 incredible incredibly talented people who are doing their own music now and recording and doing everything. I really like hearing their songs, their music, and their approach to what they're doing and helping them with their vocals. And they are doing really well. So that to me is and that they can appreciate what I have how it changed them because I have them record themselves along the way so you could hear your own progress. And the they get a lot of compliments from their parents and from their friends and from people. And I heard you a year ago and you sound completely different. You know, somebody in the industry is is now chasing after them or something to get them into the industry for real. And that to me is hearing them grow and embody what I've taught is pretty awesome.
Sure. So rumor has it that you had a chance to work with David Williams at the Jim
Yes.
Henson Studios. What was that experience like?
Oh my goodness. What a player. I mean, what an incredible instrumental player. He played guitar, but he didn't just, you know, and think you said guitar players. There was
Right. I
lots
think
of
it's
great
passive.
guitar players. But no, he had another edge, another space that in which he dwelled.
Right.
I will say it like that because what you could play him a track and then just let him listen to it and not say don't give him any direction because you would be diminishing what was going to happen if you tried to make him stick in one little place that you could hear. His ears were fat, as we would say. He had fat ears, and he would listen to it and he said, "Okay." And he said, "I heard that. Okay, let me play it." And then you just let it run, and he would put down something that would be fire.
Right.
I mean, on fire, and it would kill, and you had never heard that before. He never repeated himself. I don't know where that came from. I mean, he was like channeling something beyond. I really believe that because he never played the same things twice or something that would be like, oh, he played that on this song or he plays that on another. No, always something original and just amazing.
Have there been some other artists that you noticed something very similar, that their ability to either come
Oh,
up with
Marlo
or something?
Henderson, another one. A great, Marlo had a very interesting background. He was in our group. He was in my band. He was a very good friend of mine until the day he left and graduated to another place. Um, he was from Alamogordo, New Mexico, which was close to Area 51.
Right.
And he had these incredible stories about Area 51.
Right.
Which were pretty bizarre, but he grew up there and he saw all kinds of bizarre, interesting
objects,
craziness, you know. But he was like an amazing musician who also had fat ears and a different concept that was he could be ethereal, he could be funky, he could be in just again never repeating himself but just so down to earth and giving when to the music and that he also is somebody that I learned a lot from as well. It's just amazing. But Marlo Henderson and David Williams, I don't know anybody that falls into that category to this moment. And there's some great players that are walking the earth, but they don't have those things.
Right. And you have a funny story about Wawa Watson.
No, wow. You mean, well, Johnny Guitar Watson used to come to our house and play. I used to have a baby grand piano, and a lot of people don't know that Johnny Guitar Watson had, um, his first instrument was piano.
Right.
But he played guitar, he said, so that girls could see him better.
Right.
So they had a better view of him, you know, his magnificence.
Royal splendor.
Yeah, his mom, I knew his whole family, his dad, his mom, his kids, everybody. But he would come to our house at like 8 o'clock in the morning and he would be dressed to the nines. You're like, why are you all He's like, "Oh, this is just my regular attire."
Right.
And then he would come in, he liked the coffee that I made, and I'd make him some coffee, and he would sit there and just play the piano for a couple of hours and drink coffee and say, "All right, thanks, okay, thanks a lot, sis." And then he would leave. They're just amazing, just amazing.
Sure. Is there any artists that you've worked with where you were really super impressed with their focus, their ability to really channel and things of that nature?
Um, well, Shaka, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say this, I worked on the
Mm-hmm.
juke joint,
And
that's
see.
the Quincy Jones and Rod Temperton
Yes, right.
was the
Who was
producer
what group
from
was it?
yeah, from Rod Temperton,
Right, from Heat Wave.
yeah, from
Right.
Heat Wave,
Sure.
and what a set of ears that guy had. But he was so calm and so cool, and how he multi-tracked all the voices and the harmonies, amazing. And so it made me like again, the sound of it, how he put it together, the voicings and everything, amazing. And he was like the kindest, most not an eccentric kind of artistic person.
Sure.
He just had the music in him, and he conveyed that to you, and then he would say, "I want it like this and this," and everybody be softer but get bigger here and can bring it back down. And it was just amazing. I really enjoyed working with him. I learned a lot because he wrote everything out, but he didn't write it in notes. He wrote it in letters and alphabet, the
Mhm.
chord in alphabet. So it was like, the G is gonna be here, but we're gonna come down here with the B and the da da da. And then it would be, he wrote those notes, just wrote it down in a line
Sure.
like this. So
Wow.
pretty amazing.
And you had the story about yourself being able to work with multi-track.
Well, yeah. Be when I first was getting started with the Maxayn thing and being in a studio, I had never spent that much time in a studio. Um, and no, I didn't know the the machinery and the mechanisms, how everything worked. And I asked our engineer, Jack Adams, at the time, um, record plant. How does that work? And he asked him about the 24 track machine. He showed me how the heads had to press against the tape and how they could control it with just selecting one track at a time and that kind of thing. I said, so to me, being a person that didn't know anything, I didn't think about any hindrances. I was just like, oh, so I could sing harmony with myself. And he goes, not really. You can't. I said, but yeah, I could do it. I didn't think I thought he meant maybe you can't because you can't hear it or
Right.
something like that. But he meant nobody. And then he said, no, nobody does that.
Mm.
And I said, but I could do it. Let me
Right.
try. Just let me try. And I convinced him to let me try. And I sang 5-point harmony for him on a track on some background parts. And then when he played it all coming back, he was kind of blown away. He told me to wait right here. And he went down the hall, came back with 10 people and played it. And they were like, he said, listen at this. And they played it. And he said, who sang this? I said, she did. But where's the rest of the? He said, no, it's her. She
Mm.
did it. And everybody wanted to know how I did it, And I said, I just count. That's
Right.
it.
That's right.
I just know how to
You know
count,
music. Right.
and I know what I sang and the phrase that I sang, the way I'm styling it, so I could remember, and and then months later, every time I would meet new singers they wouldn't be new singers, but it would be new to me,
Right.
but they were famous. Some of them were famous. The first thing they would ask me, "How did you?" I met Jean Carmer, and I was like, "Oh, hi, I love your music." She goes, "How did you sing harmony with yourself on those records? How did you do that?" I was like, "What?" So it was pretty funny. I said, I didn't realize that it was a big deal at that time.
Sure.
It's not now
Right.
because
Right.
now in analog you couldn't see a screen
Right.
with the vocals displayed with some kind of movement
Right.
and the track this way. But then it was just strictly
Right.
your ear, your memory, your timing, that kind of thing.
Any particular funny story or something that you can't believe this happened during a recording session?
Oh yeah, with DJ Rogers,
Mm.
who is like a really good friend of mine, he was very emotional, and he could take a session that was supposed to be very down to smooth,
Easy.
and he would turn it into a whole church
Mm.
with people shouting and crying. He would have singers there, and they were from church choirs and stuff, and he would turn it out in the studio.
Right.
And it's like, and they would really be full of the spirit,
Right.
like full. They would get full, and DJ would be, and then suddenly he would just go, "Okay, everybody, stay with your party. Okay, we're moving on to a new song." After he had like turned it into this like over the top thing, but he was really fun, and I used to see DJ all the time, and he used to come by because we had studio stuff at our house and that kind of thing too.
Sure.
So,
If you had to pick a handful of artists that you really enjoyed either being on tour with or recording with.
oh, pretty much. Well, definitely. Well, being on tour with Donna Summer.
Mm-hmm.
Donna was an amazing, amazing person. Sweet, funny, smart as a whip. She could speak 5 languages
Mm.
fluently.
Right.
I watched her one day. We were all we were in Mexico City, and she was on the phone speaking in German. And then a guy was sitting in the room with us. We were all eating breakfast in her big suite, and she was like speaking German, and then speaking to him in Italian, and then speaking to us, and then back on the phone in German, and then back to Italian, but just like blinking an eye.
Right.
She was just amazing. And her records, even though they were very good,
Mm-hmm.
they did not represent how really well she could
I've
sing.
heard people say that.
She was awesome, but very down to earth and really fun, and she really loved her family, and she was just a regular person. And she was another person that just called me on the phone
Right.
and said, "Could you come over to my house?" I never met her before.
Mhm.
And I went to her. I want you to work with me. And I said, "Okay." And so I'm thinking, oh, but she want me to audition or something.
Yeah.
And I get there, and it's like a room full of girls. And then she goes, "Okay, this is Maxayn Lewis, and she's gonna pick 2 of you to go on the road with us." What?
You
You know,
actually showed up.
yeah. I just got here. I just walked in, that kind of thing. And then she goes, "They don't know. And it's okay. You can do that. You pick it. You pick 2 people." So that was when we toured Mexico and the Philippines and a bunch of places, Venezuela, all over. But she was an amazing artist to work with, and just the presentation of her show was dramatic and
Right.
beautiful, and really, really lovely. I really liked working with her, and she was a lot of fun. She was always pranking people,
Mm.
but in a sweet way,
Sure.
funny way. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Such a treasure. We so
Yeah.
appreciate it. It's so wonderful to sort of walk down memory lane, so to speak, with so many of these people. The music still lives on. It's on the
Yeah.
various tracks, on the various,
Yeah.
radio station, things like that all the time. The elevator, you can't escape it. So it's helpful to hear sort of a visual as to
Mhm.
some of what they were like behind the scenes. So,
And I think another thing that stands out in my mind is Vanetta Fields,
mm,
who sang on, she was one of the original, I guess, but she sang on the Pink Floyd
mm,
Wall album. Um, she called me up one day and said, "Oh, there's a session I need. I'm gonna send you as I can't make that, and I'm gonna send you, and you're gonna sing." And yeah, okay, and it's over at the studio on Ibar, and I get there, and she said it'll be Studio A, and I said, "Okay." So I get there, and I open the door, and in the studio there's Barry Gibb standing there like rock god behind the board. And I thought, "Whoa." And I closed the door back.
right.
I went in the wrong room, and that was,
Maybe,
am I crazy? That was Barry Gibb from the Bee Gees.
right.
And he comes to the end, "Hello," to the door, and he goes, You must be Maxayn. Come on in." And I'm just saying that you reminded me of this because you said you hear music on the elevator at the grocery store and that kind of thing. And this is one of those moments
Right.
when I'm like, I get there and he goes, "Come on in, we're waiting for you." Okay. And um, the guy from um, uh, what's the, from he was the lead singer on the song, and it was Grease.
Right.
And that's the song. So he's showing me on the guitar how the work, how the parts go, how the timing is, how it's gonna happen. Valley,
Frankie Valli.
Frankie Valley, and he and another guy named Jack Nietzsche was sitting like in a chair, perched like a bird. and, he- and I was looking at him, and it was these characters, but Barry Gibb is very straight on,
Yeah.
right on the music, everything. Went out there, and and Frankie Valli. He didn't look at that time like he could sing anything. He looked like he was so tired and so just beat up, or something. And he just like hadn't got a lot of rest. But when he started to sing, his voice was on point, intact, and he was killing it, you know. Singing those parts from that song. And so we say, "Grease is the word, it's the word that you heard. It's got a groove, it's got a meaning," right? And so I thought, wow, what an interesting. I didn't know anything about the play,
Right.
nothing. I didn't know anything about it. But that is a song that I hear every time I leave home and go anywhere. If I go to Ralph's, if I go to
Right.
Gelson's, if I'm if I'm at Bristol
Ross.
Farms, I'm I'm at the medical center over at Cedars, going at the dentist.
Right.
There it is. Grease. It always plays.
True.
Yeah, so
Wonderful.
my forever
Sure.
song.
Yes. I love it. And I hope the residuals keep coming in forever and ever as well from all the work you've
Yeah.
done. Our last question is always that the show is called Music and Medicine.
Mhm.
And when you hear those words, music and medicine, how do they speak to your heart?
Music and medicine. I think music is medicine. And because it does so much for you, and it has such an impact. It definitely is healing. It's soothing. It can be your friend. Sometimes it's all you have. And I've had times in my life when that's all I had was just my music or access to certain music that always brings me back to center, that kind of thing. Because, I mean, life can throw you some curveballs. I mean, and everything, and all music is not inspiring in church.
Right.
It doesn't, I think your church is wherever you are. It's within you. You carry your own sanctuary. And sometimes part of that sanctuary is enhanced by whatever a lyric says or a performance, the way a singer says something to you or the way somebody plays it, plays a phrase or anything. So music has its ability to heal. Some people get angry when they hear it. Some people get drunk or whatever, because it inspires them in different ways. But definitely, for me, it's been up until now. It's a friend. It's my nurse. It's my doctor. You know, it's my escape.
Right.
But then again, it's something I focus on, and this is where I make my living and live my life.
Sure. Well, you've definitely been a blessing to our lives.
Oh, thank you.
And so wonderful to have you sharing all these different stories
Well,
with
thank
us
you
and
for
things like
having
that.
me.
Your passion comes across and your wonderful stories about so many of the wonderful legends that we've known of. I think you helped make it a lot more personal for us. So
Thank
thanks so
you.
much.
Thank you.
A pleasure.